Hey everybody, it's Mike coming to you live from Nashville, Tennessee, where I am speaking for an organization called Lemonade for Legal, run by three very dear friends and just truly, truly amazing people, Debbie Foster, Alan Wilson, and Rich Wilson. And the conversation I had with the folks today was all about mental health, focusing a little bit more than normal on what we can do to take care of ourselves. And you may recall back in the summer, I did a video about mental health and the struggles that I was having as a direct result of our younger daughter, Maddie, leaving for school. And since that time, aside from being just incredibly gratified and touched and moved by all of the outreach people did towards me, emanating directly from that video, I've done some work and I'm now speaking a little bit about what we as leaders can do in terms of self-care, of making sure that we are tending to our own needs. And I always kind of come back to my favorite quote from one of my favorite people ever, Robin Williams. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always. And I've taken a different perspective on that quote lately. And it's all about making sure that we are taking care of ourselves. You know the metaphor of the oxygen mask, where you see two oxygen masks falling from a plane, and the admonition we get from flight attendants when we're on a plane, which is all about making sure that we take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And in leadership, it's very similar. Until and unless we are committed to paying attention to and attending to our own mental health needs, we really are not as effective, and maybe not effective at all, in helping others. So my question that I asked the folks at Lemonade for Legal in Nashville today was all about whether they have a self-care plan. What is it they do to ensure that their mental health needs are satisfied, are met? And when I asked the question about who has a formal self-care plan, almost no one identified themselves as having such a plan, but almost everyone identified taking care of mental health as an absolute priority. And there's a little bit of a disconnect there. There's a seeming unwillingness to give to ourselves the grace that is necessary to ensure that our needs are met. And when we talk about why we ignore our own mental health needs, one of the concepts that always comes up is the idea of emotional labor, that there is an intensity associated with taking care of our own needs. And there is a time commitment and constraint because we're only able to provide so much time to others. But what about ourselves? What about paying some of the emotional labor attention to caring for the needs that we have? I hear other people saying, well, it feels indulgent. It feels a little too self-indulgent. And that was kind of where I was back in August, that I didn't think my own needs needed to be attended to, that my mental health concern was somehow less important than others. Sure, I'm always willing to help other people, but not as willing to pay attention to what I may require in the moment. It's not part of my culture, and whether we're talking about a sort of a national origin kind of culture, a religious kind of culture, an age-based culture, or whether we're just talking about the fact that this isn't kind of what I do or what I'm accustomed to. We need to change that way of thinking. I don't know how to pay attention to my own needs, and I fundamentally understand this because even as someone who was raised as the product of two mental health professionals, as someone who speaks frequently about the need to care for others and the importance of mental health in the workplace, it took my buddy Andy saying to me, there are two kinds of people in this world, those who struggle and liars, for me finally to get to pay attention to what it was I need, and finally this idea of no one else is doing it. And if no one else is doing it, why should I feel so important? Or why should it be so necessary for me to pay attention to my own mental health needs? And what I will give you, I think, are 5 helpful tools of how we better, as leaders, can put the oxygen mask on ourselves first. And Number one is focus on your body budget. I understand that there's only so much time and there's only so much attention we have that we can pay during the course of a day. So do small things during the day. If exercise, for example, is something that helps you, micro workouts. Do you have stairs in the building in which you work? Up and down the stairs a few times. A mini yoga class. These kinds of small steps we can take. If sleep, for example, is an issue, or stress is an issue, do your best to avoid Zoom calls, team calls, focusing too much on work, super early in the morning, super late at night. Am I telling you there aren't times ever where you're going to have to do that? I'm not. But to the extent you can avoid Zooms, Teams calls, work-related functions right before bed, first thing in the morning, those are the kinds of things that take this body budget away from you. Second, give yourself permission to extend empathy to you. Give yourself permission to engage in self-care. You've heard me say it time and time again, and you've heard it from others as well. You got to give yourself some grace. None of us is inhuman. We all have those moments, and sometimes the moments are fleeting, and sometimes the moments become days, weeks, months, years, or lifetimes. We need to be accepting, just as we are in others, in these kinds of concerns that arise in ourselves. Give yourself the grace to understand that it's okay not to be okay. Third, celebrate and savor small victories. When something goes particularly well, indulge. Congratulate yourself. Treat yourself to something. I'm not talking about extravagant gifts. Even if it's something as simple as, I'm going to go get some frozen yogurt. Maybe I'll go grab that pair of sneakers that I've been looking at for a while. Celebrate the small successes. Savor those successes. Prioritize, when we are trying to create this self-care plan, small and steady. There is a concept known as relentless incrementalism, which is the idea that change is facilitated best in small, consistent steps. One of my favorite athletes, and you heard me talk about him before, in Philadelphia is Tyrese Maxey. And Tyrese Maxey went from being a mid-first round pick to being one of the 10 best players in the National Basketball Association. And if you ask him how, what he will tell you is, I always try to get 1% better every day. He understands that sustainable change isn't made through grand gestures and big steps. Those kinds of things inevitably boomerang. The way sustainable change, the way habits change, is relentless incrementalism. It's allowing for these small, unending, consistent, steady steps. And finally, if it helps you, get yourself an accountability buddy. Find someone who you can talk to about the struggle. Talk to that person and see if they will join along in your plan, whether it's exercise-based, whether it is diet-based, whether it is receiving help from a mental health professional or a member of your organization's employee assistance program. Find an accountability buddy, somebody who will let you know that it's okay to not be okay, but also will hold you accountable, will ensure that you're doing the things that you know that you need to do. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Very often, that person is you. Give yourself grace. Understand that it's okay not to be okay, but do your best to formulate some kind of a real, a formal self-care plan to hold yourself accountable, to do your best to help yourself. Thanks so much, everyone. As always, I truly appreciate your watching, your commenting, your sharing. Hope to see you real soon.